no doubt you're understanding more and more of what I have to offer, using the analogy of the open hand representing the God divine disposition, and the clenched fist as the egoic disposition. The disposition of God is always intimate, always. There's nothing. The body-mind that is God, the open hand disposition, is not in the way of being intimate. That disposition of God, the God disposition, is not in any way separate from anything. The open hand is not separate from the phone. It's intimate with the phone. The open hand disposition is intimate with the coaster. The open hand disposition is intimate with the spectacle case and the spectacles and whatever else is in there. The open hand disposition is never ever separate from whatever it embraces. The open hand disposition embraces every single condition that's arising, no matter what is arising. The open hand disposition is never, ever, ever separate. There is no division, absolutely none whatsoever. The body-mind of the divine disposition is not making, is not doing separation. It's not adding anything to get in the way of being intimate. Earlier on today, I was talking about the windscreen. The windscreen is never, ever, ever affected by the dirt that's on the windscreen. The windscreen, which is clean, pure, not dirty, is actually intimate with the dirt. And the dirt is, if you like, the egoic nonsense that we create that separates us. So the dirty windscreen, or the dirt that is on the windscreen, is getting in the way of being intimate with all that's arising. Because the dirt, if you like, on the windscreen is glued to the windscreen. It's stuck on the windscreen. The dirt and the grime, it's interfering with God, with the divine, being intimate. So there's the clean windscreen representing God, the divine, and the dirt that's on the windscreen, which isn't affecting the windscreen, although it might look as if it is. The dirt is the egoic, represents the egoic tendencies of each and every body-mind. Childish tendencies and adolescent tendencies. All about me, 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 me. All about identification, being a victim. All about non-love or unlove. No intimacy. The ego can never ever be intimate. Never. Never. The ego is always always full of itself, always doing its own thing, always being contracted, because the ego is contraction. And it creates all these tendencies. Fear gets in the way of being intimate. Fear takes you away from being intimate. Anxiety takes you away from being intimate. Boredom takes you away from being intimate with the conditions that are arising right now. Doubt in the head, always doubting, takes you away from being intimate. But the root cause of doubt, boredom, fear, anxiety is the self-contraction. And without the self-contraction, there is simply God, the divine, which is intimacy. So, shall I say it all again? I'm using the windscreen, which is clean, which is clear, which is absolutely pure and gleaming and bright and shiny. The windscreen is representing the divine. And through the windscreen, we can see clearly, really clearly, except when there's grime and dirt on the windscreen. And that dirt and grime is representing the ego, the results of the ego, the horribleness of the ego, the ugliness of the ego. And therefore you cannot see through the windscreen as clearly as you could if all that grime and dirt was not on the windscreen. And once again, the grime and the dirt is not affecting the windscreen. The windscreen is still there, clean, shiny and gleaming. Apparently, the windscreen is dirty. No, the dirt is just clinging. It's just on the windscreen. You can be taken away, cleaned, and the windscreen looks as good as new, bright and gleaming. The mirror is very similar. The mirror never ever changes. It's constantly reflecting. The reflection is not the mirror. Going back to the windscreen is prior to the grime and the dirt, just as the mirror is. It's prior, it's before. So before anything is added to God, the divine, before anything is added, it is pure, it is bright, it is already the case, it is already happiness, joy, delight, peace. There was I animated, and then absolute peace, restfulness, absolute quietness. It's the internal, the disposition is so quiet, so rested. So going back to the windscreen once more, the windscreen is not affected by the dross, grime, dirt, smudges, filth. The windscreen is absolutely clear, not affected. Looks as if it is, but it's not. And so the body-mind that is full of knots, the doing of the self-contraction, apparently that person is depressed. That body-mind is unhappy. She's always seeking. He's always doubting. They're always arguing. They never ever see eye to eye. Look at that person, stuffing himself with food. Why? He's so unhappy. Look at that old dear, that lady there. It makes me cry to see her so unhappy. He's giving up. There's no happiness there. He's so idle, they say. He's lost his job. He's not a person who can keep down his job. Went to see the doctor today. The doctor's so stressed out. That teacher's a bully. My mother was this, that, and the other. That person's trying so hard, he's just banging his head against the wall. So we're seeing all of these results from the self-contraction. Not one of these people know that they're doing ego, doing the self-contraction, which is not necessary. The self-contraction creates unrest, creates unhappiness, suffering. And it can be very subtle, doesn't have to be so obvious. This is a lovely analogy of the windscreen representing cleanliness, brightness, joy, delight, intimacy. Take away the dross, take away the grime, take away the smudges, the smears, take away all the shit. And get it. Consider the farm vehicles, Land Rovers, going over muddy tracks. Another example, the wheel, the tyre. The tyre can get, going back to the windscreen could get broken by grit and stones, and so they affect the windscreen. Yes, I give you that, of course. But the general day-to-day dirt does not affect. So the body-mind can be affected. The body-mind could have a broken leg. The body-mind, but that does not affect the prior condition. We're talking about a disposition. We're not talking about the body-mind itself. We're talking about a disposition. The God disposition, remember, was never born and will never die. The God disposition is always, always presently the case. It's prior. It's before anything arises. It's consciousness with a capital C. It's every single person's true self, capital S. Is every single person's true reality, capital R. When there's no self-contraction, the body-mind is lived easily and effortlessly. The hands do what they need to do, feet do what they need to do, all the organs do what they need to do. The organism of the body-mind, it is allowed to do what it should do and not be interfered with, then it operates well. But consciousness is prior to the body-mind, because the body-mind dies, as we know. But that which lives on was never born and will never die. Some of these phrases I was taught by the great teacher and master Adidar Samraj. I respect him as my teacher. and I've done what he's asked me to do, and I continue doing what he's asked me to do. To be free of the self-contraction, all I need to do is commune. Commune with my teacher. Commune with the agent. That's what Holy Communion is about. There is no way that the clenched fist can undo itself. There is no way that the self-contraction can just suddenly stop. You cannot stop doing the self-contraction. The self-contraction has to be interfered with, and that interference, to interfere with the self-contraction, one needs self-understanding. You need to feel the self-contraction and turn away from it. One needs to simply turn one's attention to that which is already happy and bright and a delight and a joy. And there is simply this enjoyment, unmade enjoyment, unconditional, under all circumstances. The body needs taken care of. One needs to have food and sustenance, and of course sleep. So I'm going off to bed shortly. It's 5 past midnight. But consciousness of a capital C doesn't need sleep. Consciousness with a capital C is always already the case. To realize that state, that disposition, it's the same as someone who hasn't had a glass of water for a while, and they really want that glass of water, really want it. It quenches their thirst. So they knew what it was like to be really thirsty. So you've got to really want God in your life. You've got to know what it's like without God. Really know that it's not good. Really know that how you're living as a clenched fist, a self-contraction, is ruination of intimacy with one another. Your true state of the body-mind, the state of the body-mind is God. Jesus said, love God first. I say, be God first. And to be God first is a graceful happening. You're disillusioned. You know there's nowhere else to go. Nowhere else to go. You're surrendering. You're giving up. You're giving up this self-contraction. Turning away from it. Forgetting. Self-forgetting. God remembering. For me, I remember my lover, my great friend, my re-educator, in the form of Adidas sandwich. And in that satsang, that divine communion, everything dissolves. It's a heart matter. not of the mind. It's unreasonable and it's radical. True love is God. True love is God-given. True love is being lived by God, with no interference. Egoic love is abysmal. Egoic love is ugly. It's not real love. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for listening.